Welcome back to The Source. The Asian Development Bank finds Metro Manila as the most congested city in Asia. The study reveals that lack of efficient and affordable public transportation contributes to the city's congestion. Metro Manila Development Authority says that congestion is a result of many factors, including the influx of people from the provinces for higher wages. Let's go straight to the source of the story. We have Asian Development Bank Macroeconomic Research Director Abdul Abiad. Director Abiad, welcome to the show.
Thanks very much for having me, Pinky.
Very interesting to talk about this. We are looking at how many cities that were studied. Almost 300 in developing Asia, is this correct? 278
right.
cities.
So actually a wider set than that, 1,500 cities, which we mapped ourselves.
How come it said 278 Asian cities? Oh, with a population of 5 million.
No, because these were you're referring to the set for which we could get congestion data.
Okay, so you research 1,500 cities in developing Asia, and we are #1. Metro Manila ranked #1, hits #1 as the most congested city. First is, which Metro Manila are we talking about? What cities are included in Metro Manila?
Right, so let me give some background on what exactly we did. What we were studying was urbanization in all of developing Asia. And so the first fact that we wanted to document was sort of the rapid urbanization taking place in the Philippines as well as in the rest of the region. So what is it? In 1970, you had about 340 million people living in cities in Asia. That increased fivefold between then and now. So you now have about 1.4 billion people living in cities. That's about a 3.5% increase every year. In the Philippines, it's been even faster than that. We've been having, the growth of urban population has been something like 4.3% per year over the recent years. And
with recent years, would you say what, 5 years,
like
10
from
years?
2010 to 2015, that was between the most recent censuses.
That's big.
It is. So it's not surprising. So so now basically half of the Philippines lives in cities, and so so not only have cities been expanding in population, they also expanded in size geographically. So the problem is a lot of the data you look at for cities, they're based on administrative boundaries. So and first, many countries define cities in different ways, but in addition, administrative boundaries don't really demarcate where a city ends, right? So if you think about Manila, 17 municipalities, officially 13 million people according to the last census. But if you look at the urban footprint, which is what we did, we used satellite imagery as well as data, the spatial distribution of populations. Where are people actually on the map? If you do that, Metropolitan Manila actually covers an area 4 times as big as the official one and has a population of about 24 million people. It extends as far north as Baliwag, as far south as Calamba, as far east as Cainta, and as far west as the cities in Cavite. So it's really a pretty big area, and so that's one of the challenges. It's you have a lot of people, but there's also a lot of sprawl.
So we're not talking about what we're used to, 17 cities comprising Metro Manila. You're looking at all the way from Baliwag, north, down to Bulacan.
Although my guess is even if you focused on the 17, it would still be the case that we would rank #1.
But I was curious to find out which cities were included in the Metro Manila being the most congested.
So in that study, it was basically this bigger, we call it a natural city. It's the city as defined as it actually stands, and not as a bureaucrat might define it.
And if we were to look at it again, just to repeat, Baliwag, and then Bulacan, Cavite, and even Cainta.
Right. So
how many cities would that be?
So this is actually 96 municipalities, and importantly, it actually crosses over 7 provinces. So this actually comes to one of the problems in that how do you govern, a metropolitan area that spans so many different administrative areas?
Right. Okay. So what were the factors that actually led to Metro Manila being the most congested city?
Right. So there are a number of factors. Obviously, large population is one, but we're not the largest city in Asia. Density is actually a more important factor. If you look at Metropolitan Manila, 11 of our cities rank in the top 50 densest cities in the world. Metro Manila is actually #1 with 40,000 people per square kilometer, but 10 other cities in this metropolitan area have densities of between 20,000 to 30,000 people per square kilometer. So we're really world leaders in that, unfortunately. So that's one. High density is really associated with congestion.
So how you see it as number of people per square kilometer?
Per square kilometer,
okay.
that's right. Another is a rapid growth of motor vehicles. So that's grown even faster than population. In Metro Manila, in the NCR region, actually, so just for where we have data, motor vehicles have increased 7.3% each year. So we had 250,000 vehicles already in Manila 10 years ago. It's doubled to about 500,000 vehicles now. And why has that happened? Well, one, it's a sign of progress. People can afford to buy vehicles.
Yeah.
But it's also because of the third factor that causes congestion. The
lack of efficient transportation,
exactly,
mass transportation.
Inadequate mass transit, yep.
So those are the factors that led to, well, the problem that Metro Manila is facing. So I also saw something about looking into definitely land value and possible urban planning. Have we failed in urban planning, and is there still a chance?
Yeah, so it's a challenge for all of the cities. So it's not a problem just in Manila. Managing a city, planning and managing a city is hard. Planning and managing a metropolis is even harder. And so yes, so that's one of the key recommendations actually, that one needs to be forward thinking and really think about how cities expand. Planning has to include thinking about mobility and accessibility. So again, what kind of mass transit systems are you going to put in? I think what you had mentioned about land values it's one of the things that the Asian Development Bank is advocating, that how do we typically pay for our infrastructure now? The Philippines and other countries, in many cases, we pay for it out of the budget. The problems with that are these infrastructure projects are really expensive. We have limited budgets. We have other priorities like health and education. And it's also, there's an issue of fairness. I mean, why would you ask a taxpayer in Mindanao to pay for a rail system in Manila?
Right.
And
which some have raised as well.
Yes. And so what we're advocating is one needs to explore, given how much infrastructure we need, one needs to explore supplementary sources of revenue, and one such source is it's called land value capture. The idea is that it hinges on two things. One is that when you make investments, when you build mass transit, for example, it raises property values because it makes properties more accessible.
Correct.
And the second premise underlying this idea is that those who benefit from an investment should contribute proportionately to it. This is why, right? This is why we charge fares to people who ride it. But they're not the only beneficiaries. Even if I don't ride mass transit, if I'm a car, but if more people ride mass transit, there's less congestion on the road. I benefit. Businesses benefit because it's easier for their customers to get and their suppliers to get to them.
Okay.
But property owners also benefit.
So the government, would you say, is definitely on the right track with its build project? Of course, infrastructure projects are on the works.
Right.
However, to see really to bear fruit will possibly take, I don't know, the end of the president's term at the least, or 3 years even after President Rodrigo Duterte's term. So
yeah, so if one thinks about what the solutions are to the congestion problem, number one is really, you need to lay down a good mass transit system. That really has to be the backbone of any urban transit system in a high-density place like Metro Manila.
And it's been so delayed for
It has,
Metro
exactly.
Manila.
So I, for one at least, I'm optimistic. I mean, it's good to see action. We have to recognize that these projects are not easy, right? So they're really complex. They take many years. So it requires a lot of patience from us. But it's actually good that these things are moving forward. So again, so the Manila subway, the North-South commuter rail, which ADB is helping with, expansions of the MRT systems. We also have to remember that it's not just the rail transit systems. It's also it has to be multimodal. People need to be able to get there. So it's this what we call the first and last mile, right?
It's obviously interconnectivity as well through public transport. Thank you to Director Abdul Abiad. We'll see what happens, sir. I mean, we're also monitoring the government's Build With project. I think the subway, it's groundbreaking should happen by November or December, at least according to the DOTR. Thank you again, sir. Thank you for joining us here on The Source. I'm Pinky Webb. You're watching CNN Philippines.